Welcome, Hardin. Who knew that intro has that much more to it?
Yeah, I didn't realize it had like another 20 minutes of that.
I was just gonna let it keep going. Just let it ride. How's everybody doing tonight? As you can see, it's a little different this time
We
around.
got rid of Dole, finally.
My takeover of this channel is complete. I've even acquired a hat and Dole's headphones. And yeah, so Ryan and Alice are out. They're never coming back. It's my show. I'm in charge. Just kidding. They'll be back next week. But to help me hopefully keep this from becoming a dumpster fire, I've got my good buddy Jay from Geek Dad Life joining us. And yeah, how you doing, Jay?
Pumped to be here. You know, Dole's been trying to steal my family for some time now, and now I'm helping you steal his show. Let's go.
His precious show is now
his
ours.
most precious.
Next, we're coming for his cyborg.
Well, yeah, he's got a cyborg over there, and I love this. This is a new look setup.
Oh yeah,
I haven't seen this.
Jay, yeah, in honor of you as our guest, I'm sitting in front of my Motu stuff because you've got a great Motu related podcast that we'll talk about in a little bit. But first, I'm going to say hello to the chat. You know, first time for everything.
It's your first time doing it.
Good luck. I don't even know how to do it. So we're just gonna do it.
Just read it and just keep clicking and keep going down.
All right, let's see how we can do this. You guys should be rating me on my performance. Toy Farce, how's it going? Video Power Gaming, Toy Geekosaurus, Stanley Eberhard. This is a lot, guys. This is a lot harder than it looks. Gady's Toys. Yeah, just get this out of the way now. Yes, Renaissance is misspelled in the title of the video. I don't know how to log into our YouTube to change it. Ryan's very busy. He was nice enough to make it get it all set up, but we'll fix it in post.
Yeah, it's fine. Don't stress it.
We all love Ninja Turtles here anyways. Dora Laxon. Let's see. Stephen Lawrence. Johnny Cock, how you doing? Bacon McShig. The Deadheads. Alex Aro. Jabertooth time. Yep, we got Jabertooth in the house. Dartherian, Jack Knight 73, Tony Taponi, Skylar Davis, and thank you for joining us on this lovely Wednesday night. You did great.
You did great.
We'll get that time up. But so, without further ado, Jay, you're gracious enough to join us tonight, and you've got a brand new ToyGeeks podcast. You've revived the podcast.
Yes.
And let's see. I'm going to attempt to
share your screen.
Share the screen.
Alex, you're killing it, by the way.
It's not so hard. Dole talks about, no one else can do this. It's impossible. But so here we are on the on geekdadlife.com. Check it out.
If you scroll down a little bit, should be somewhere on there, I think.
Yeah, it's usually comes up right away. I'll go.
Or maybe it's on podcast. I don't know.
Well,
there it is.
So
click on
this.
That.
This is how I've been listening to the podcast. I go to the geekdadlife.com.
Okay.
Click on this heading, and you can just listen to it in.
You can.
But it's also available on Spotify and other places where you can.
Apple Podcasts. Mm-hmm. Apple Podcasts is the most popular, probably because it's pre-downloaded onto everybody's iPhones. But But like true to me, so I've been a podcaster since 2005. So I've been doing it for almost 20 years. And like true podcasting means it's an audio file that is embedded into an RSS feed, which allows you to have some type of podcatcher that downloads it to, back in the day, your iPod, or it'd have to be in like iTunes, and then you'd sync it to your iPod. But now you can just do it directly. So you can subscribe on podcatcher services like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Android Podcasts, Amazon. So we have it on all the different platforms. So whatever podcatcher service you use, you can just search ToyGeeks and subscribe to it. Or if you want to, you can just go to the website and click the little play button on there. But sometimes it's not as like easy on the go, listen in your car.
Well, yeah, it's great. So you tend to post these in the morning, right? Tuesday mornings.
Yeah, so we're trying to find the right day. Tuesday, like to me, podcasts are something you take with you, instead of like sit down and watch. So trying to hit that peak commute time, and people like to actually watch or listen to the live stream on Mondays. So like Tuesdays, like your next day of the commute, hopefully filling in.
Yeah, no, it's great. I'm definitely typically a next day listener or watcher. Like it's perfect for me sculpting to have that sort of thing on. And so yeah, it's a great nice to good way to start Tuesday mornings. And it's you and Dan Larson,
yes,
of Secret Galaxy fame. If anyone listening isn't familiar. And you're talking about the history of Masters of the Universe, right?
Yeah, it's kind of the original podcast idea when John and I were trying to make it happen was we would have different topics, right? Like toy related topics. And I think our first one was, when did you become a toy collector? Some stuff like that. And one of the challenges I foresaw for that podcast was, and there was a couple other toy podcasts at that time, was how quickly you would kind of burn through toy line topics. Like, you do an episode on Masters of the Universe and an episode on Star Wars or an episode on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And so, we kind of moved to live streaming, kind of abandoned the podcast idea. But a little while ago, it finally clicked, or I unlocked, or at least in my mind, unlocked how I could get back into a podcast form that could give it enough length. And that was almost like doing a mini series around a toy line and doing it 1 year at a time. So that way you can actually, spend time really getting into a different toy line. And sometimes that would be a good size mini series or series like Masters of the Universe. It's going to be 8 or 9 episodes total. Or sometimes maybe just a couple episodes, depending on what that toy line is. But so there's gonna be some big series like this one, Marvel Legends, like that would just be Toy Biz Marvel Legends, or Kenner Star Wars, or G1 Transformers. And so basically it allows it to kind of really breathe, really live, and also allows to have content for potentially years and years and years and years.
Yeah, and you said that Allison Troy is helping doing the research
yes,
for all these toy lines.
Yes. So one of well, for starters, getting Dan Larson to be the co-host for the show, what a coup. And nothing but the biggest thanks to Dan, who I thought this idea was dead once John decided to take a step back from doing the live stream. And just bringing it up casually when somebody asks, hey, would you do a podcast or an audio version of the show? Again, I said, well, I have an idea, but with John leaving, I probably can't do it. And then Dan in the chat was like, hey, reach out to me. And it just happened that Dan wanted to do a podcast, but didn't want to be like the one, he just wanted to be able to like come and enjoy being a part of a podcast instead of like being the one setting up the podcast and all that kind of stuff. And so all the biggest thanks to Dan, who's incredibly busy, has his own YouTube channel, but really wanted to be a part of this. And like, is there anybody better to do this with than somebody that literally has done some of the best pop culture histories on YouTube? So
I
it
know.
works out perfect.
Is he? Yeah. Does he have just a database up there of any? Or does it? Or just once they put out an episode, do you think it just kind of like it's like purging it? You know.
Well, if you've listened to the couple episodes we've put out so far, like he has just a lot of knowledge, but then he also has his personal experience of being a toy collector or just a kid being a fan of these toys. And so he's also really funny. He's had some really good just jokes in the show so far.
Yeah.
So so he has that perfect mix of grew up collecting toys, also has been a toy dealer, has had a successful toy tubing channel, and is also very well researched and knows his stuff. But
and you guys have such good voices for podcasting too.
He does for sure.
Yeah, you both do. It's very well balanced.
Thank you. But to me, at least just from my perspective, having a top class researcher to really kind of help cover all the ins and outs, if we're taking the time to really dive into it year by year, we needed, at least I thought we needed, a researcher. And Allison Troy has a fantastic YouTube channel of her own, and
Retro Toy Princess.
Yes, Retro Toy Princess is an amazing, like, some of her history videos are fantastic. So she was the first person I reached out to if she was interested in it, and she's like, hell yeah. So she is the first ever staffed member of this podcast. So yeah, so it's just starting out, just a couple episodes in, but excited to see where this thing goes.
That's awesome. Yeah. And yes, if you are just tuning in, you may have noticed I'm not Ryan. Ryan is he's taking a break. Alice is taking a little break. And I kind of I feel, I was trying to think of like what's the vibe like that, I'm gonna set here. And I think Uncle Buck is sort of where where I stand with the the last minute, you guys are my kid, are my brother's kids. I'm taking care of you. We'll see how this goes. When do you go to bed? You tell me.
No, I think you're gonna do a great job. I'm putting it in my Discord now. I have stolen Ryan's YouTube channel.
And yeah, I don't know how to do a super chat. So you guys you're all super chats tonight. How about?
It's weird. It should still be there. That's weird.
Did we ever have them? I don't know.
I thought
how that works.
I thought you all had them at like 700 subscribers, something, but definitely now that you all are over 1,000 subscribers, so weird.
Yeah, well, we'll
weird.
We'll see. Baby steps, right? So, Jay, I don't know if you've been. I'm trying to do my best. Ryan,
you're doing great. Just transition time.
I don't know if you've been paying attention to the news lately, but first I want to cover some things, some topics. First of all, so we've been covering X-Men 97 on this channel. I think we're all going through a bit of withdrawal, not having Wednesdays, waking up to that precious, beautiful new episode. But
yeah,
what a fantastic show, fantastic season, and huge congratulations and huge thank you to everyone involved with that show, everyone who worked so hard to make it what it was for us X-Men fans. And congratulations on a 100% fresh Rotten Tomatoes score, one of the highest ever, highest rated ever MCU projects, and 3.5 million views. That's nothing to sneeze at.
No, that's fantastic and well deserved. Such a it was just a perfect. I didn't have high expectations for it, and just it was one of those, the kids were away, Colleen was away, and so I had the house to myself. I was like, oh, I want to finally put on X-Men 97. It was like 3 episodes deep. And so I just put it on, and just like that, even that first episode, like Cyclops, like doing his blast hero pose. And anyway, it was just so, and just as it kept going, I was like, oh my, this is actually excellent.
Yeah.
What a pleasant surprise in a world where we had superhero fatigue. I feel like post MCU phase 100 or whatever. This like, it gets us right back to that special happy feeling.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I tend not to like most modern reboots and sequels. Like it never manages to recapture the thing that I liked the first time around. And obviously X-Men is like my number one fandom, lifelong fandom. So like I couldn't have been more like, high standards, like nervous for this show. And I think right out the gate it just kind of blew me away. And then just with each subsequent episode, it's like, okay, I can relax and just enjoy something.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's funny, it's in my mind, I didn't even consider it a reboot, like, even though I mean, it's a continuation of the story, but it had every chance to suck, and it didn't at any point in time. And I've talked about it before, but there are so few great reboots, and not like it's exactly same for beat for beat. I still think the DuckTales 2017 reboot, as a true reboot, it's not a continuation, is completely rebooting everything, but similar how it took something that was a classic from our childhood and then refreshed it and made it new and made it incredible. And but yeah, just such a that's a really hard feat to pull off. You could probably count on our hand how many great reboots there are.
Yeah, and obviously this is a topic for tonight. We can get into it in greater detail in a little bit. But yeah, I think that part of the mixture of it is that it understands the essence of the thing, the essence of the original. What is the most important thing at the heart of the original thing, but does something different. It takes it in its own new direction, without completely violating or misunderstanding the thing that people loved about it in the first place, but not just trying to kind of soullessly resurrect it or recreate it. But yeah, so in other X-Men news, we have this news that they've tapped a new screenwriter for the X-Men movie. So pretty big shoes to fill after X-Men 97. This is a hard act to follow.
You need somebody that has that level of appreciation.
Yeah.
That Bo had, right? That was the showrunner for season 1, Bo.
Yeah, Bo DeMeo.
Bo DeMeo, and but has something to say, right? It can't just be that they're fans. They have to be fans, and they have to have something to say, and using X-Men as a vehicle to say it. And I feel like that's what Bo DeMeo had. He had clearly a fan, understood all of the core concepts of what made X-Men great, but like when you saw, his after episode 5, that kind of breakdown of like his pitch and everything like that, he had a vision and he had something that he wanted to say with the X-Men lore.
Yes. He was inspired. Like, I mean, I guess, and it's hard. Like, you can't force inspiration, but with a lot of these projects, it's a job, it's a gig someone gets, and they might be passionate about the material, but I think that's different from like legitimate inspiration.
And I feel like Gatey's Toys hits it on the head, if you want to plus it. Yeah, it bears mentioning that Bo is a Black gay man who has an invested point of view. Exactly. And that's where it was just like, when he talked about his pitch, and the Pulse Club massacre, and just just kind of in 9/11, all this stuff, it framed this story in a way that I think X-Men always has, you know, whether it's tapping the civil rights movement or the LGBTQ plus movement, and you know, the struggle for equality is so entrenched in what X-Men I think has always done well, and this show just hit it on the head at like every single turn.
Yeah, and you can't discount the that X-Men is a unique of all these franchises.
Yeah.
X-Men is unique in that it does have a serious and continuously relevant message underneath all of the superhero action stuff. Yeah, it's a unique blend.
Well, and so my hope is whoever is picking this up, Michael Leslie, I hope that like this could be the X-Men of the, you know, of its era, of its time, because I feel like that's what X-Men 97 did really well. Yes, it is a throwback to the 90s, but it is also very much tapping into, you know, the social unrest that exists today. In a really powerful way, I think.
Yeah, and to your point, I think that's why it kind of makes sense to do it to do 97, because it's like, well, unfortunately, like we're never done with these problems, like these conflicts, like these issues. If you read the original pitch Bible for X-Men 92, you're like, that's everything we're still going through. Like they're just describing the modern world. So I think even that, setting it in the 90s, kind of, it helps you reflect on like, well, you know, in some ways we've come far, but in other ways, like we haven't changed at all. Like we haven't learned at all, you know.
And that's human history, right? You could go back, I don't know, hundreds of years, thousands of years, and it's always like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 1 step forward, 2 steps back. Like it's just this constant kind of you know, humanity in battle with itself constantly. And then just like progress is just fought with blood, sweat, and tears to kind of continue to push forward.
Speaking of learning, of changing things up and learning things, Chris Miller and Phil Lord are becoming the new architects of Sony's Marvel offerings. They're the creator, or the creative leadership behind the Spider-Verse movies, the Into the Spider-Verse and Across the Spider-Verse. Brilliant animated movies that obviously Ryan and Alice are intimately familiar with. But yeah, so they are going to be having a more direct involvement, and, you know, some might say riding the ship of the Sony Marvel offerings. So yeah, we'll see.
Well, here's my question. Are Dole and Alice, you know, not on tonight because they don't want to comment on this?
Now we know. No, but it's, you know, it's a good timing, right?
Well, but you know, here's the thing. Lord and Miller, I think we can all agree they've done an incredible job, right? With the Spider-Verse films, animated films. And you know, this is kind of like putting Dave Filoni in charge of Star Wars, right? It's just like, well, they get it. They get it. Let them do it. But, you know, unlike the Star Wars thing, outside of the Lord Miller stuff, it is such a mess. Like, even as great as they are as creatives, do you honestly think they can save it? Just like putting them here?
No. I mean, that's because that's too much pressure. Like I feel like Hollywood keeps kind of putting it's too much pressure on one person to save everything.
You're a geek, you get it, you go do your thing.
Yeah, and Lord and Miller have been here more than once. They've been the people who were supposed to save the franchise or whatever.
Yeah, it was Solo, right? And they got taken away.
Yeah, you can't engineer a MCU like phenomenon, like whatever those movies had that just made everything kind of click together in a web of cinematic interest. It's hard to engineer, and yeah. Oh well, thank you. I'll be here all night. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean, now Jay, I mean, you were saying before we came on that you're a true Madam Web fan, and I'd just be interested to hear you maybe defend that position here.
Well,
live.
No, I think it's a fantastic film that I definitely saw in theaters. Because I am a big fan of. No, I haven't seen that movie. What's the line? I was trying to look up the line real quick. The one, my father was a something in the Amazon or some crap that everybody uses.
Wait, is that a line from Madam Web?
Yeah, you know that Madam Web quote about father. People in the chat are gonna get it right now, like, you idiots. This.
Yeah, anyone in the chat willing to go to bat for Madam Web?
No.
Let's hear some hot takes.
But to me, yeah, I didn't even see it. It looks like crap. So, like, if you could come back from that, is there anything historically that we can look to where I don't know, there's not that many years of cinematic universes, but had a movie that bad, and Morbius was that bad, that could come back and right the ship?
Yeah, I don't know, and I feel like the Lord and Miller thing. I hopefully this isn't the case, but the attempt might be to say, well, what's the thing that's working? Let's build off of that. Because sometimes that doesn't work too. Sometimes you just gotta start fresh, stop trying to push a string. And I mean, that's like what DC is doing with James Gunn, right? You know, it's like,
that's another situation where you've put all your eggs in this James Gunn basket. I feel like I trust that one a little bit more because he has a live action track record, right? Guardians of the Galaxy are arguably the most consistently good 3 Marvel movies, like a Marvel trilogy.
Right.
Like, every single one of them is really good.
Yeah.
And Peacemaker, fantastic. And it's not perfect, but his Suicide Squad is I thought it was a solid movie.
Yeah, that was fun. Yeah, for sure.
But here it is. Yeah, Tony Johnson did it. He was in the Amazon with my mom when she was researching spiders right before she died. That's the quote everybody uses. But I guess it was in the trailer, but it was in the trailer, and then everyone's like, that is the stupidest quote or the stupidest screenwriting ever. And but I guess it didn't end up in a movie.
Who is the he? Spider-Man?
Her dad, I think. It was in the trailer. It took over the internet whenever the trailer dropped.
Was it a Amazon fulfillment center? Arachnid infestation?
You're probably busy sculpting Rogue or something. Can I just say real quick, we were all excited about this Mayfex Rogue.
Oh, yeah.
And it's fine, but that head sculpt, not even remotely close to your Rogue, just so you know.
Oh, well, thank you.
The head was, did you see that Mayfex Rogue?
Yeah. I mean, I'm not, I don't want to, as a rogue, as someone who has sculpted Rogue, I don't want to disparage
the Brotherhood of Sculptors or some shit, but I'm telling you, it's crap.
I mean, the Moff X-Men, I want those to be my, 1/12 scale X-Men. What's that?
I was ready to commit. I was going to commit with Rogue, and then that head sculpt and the hair, I was just like,
Yeah,
The
it's
hair to
like
booty ratio didn't look right. Like I'm just
yeah, sir. Yeah, sir. It's just I mean, like I have a sizable Marvel Legends collection. I am like fine. I mean, the Mafex Gambit is one of the best action figures.
oh,
Period.
it's
Like
incredible. Like that figure's
yeah,
incredible. Yeah.
they they broke the mold with that one. But yeah, none of the others. Like I'm sort of I've kind of been let down personally a lot by Mafex stuff, and it's not really my go-to anymore. And yeah, the
No,
Rogue. I mean, it's like, I mean, if you look at my earlier stuff on Instagram, please don't, but you can. And I tried to sculpt Jim Lee. That's sort of where I,
Mhm.
pre Mondo, like I was like sculpting Jim
Yeah.
Lee's X-Men. It's hard. It's a hard style to capture, especially
What makes it difficult?
well, I think it's like the 2D stylization of it, right? It's like his like
Mhm.
the faces and stuff like it looks really appealing in 2D. But when you
Mhm.
try to actually like put in the anatomy and make it work in three dimensions, not that it doesn't work, it's just that it's
Yeah.
hard to get it right, to get it perfect, and
How do you translate that? How do you expand? Like, how do you do that? Like as a technique?
um well,
'Cause, I mean, you've done it, like, no offense, but to anybody else, but you've done it with 2D animated characters and you've
oh
brought them
yeah.
to 3D life. So, like, how do you break that, like, third dimension?
Yeah. It's It's hard. I'm not
Or
it's a
or are
you
you the
do
type of artist that does it on feel? Like, are you doing it on technique or feel
it's
when you
it's a bit of both
3D
because
realize?
even the most stylized character, it helps if you
Mhm.
know anatomy. It helps if you know the
Yeah,
basic structures and forms of the skull,
yeah.
getting the right like reference material. So getting something like, oh, this is what it looks like in three-quarter view. This is what it looks like in a profile.
Yeah.
Super important. And it's really about kind of marrying those three views, the front on, three-quarter, and profile.
Mhm.
And it's like some artists are very good structurally, like a
Mhm.
Bruce Timm, like Batman the Animated Series. Even though those are
Yeah,
highly simplified, the
yeah.
structure is all like really sound. You can understand how it like kind of breaks into its simple shapes.
Mhm.
Um, you know, but some like Jim Lee, I find,
Yeah.
it's
Mhm.
just the
He
profile.
doesn't have that structure.
Yeah, the profile can't possibly be the front angle, but
Mhm.
it's like, it's like using a little bit of shadow for the nose. It's like kind of like anime or something. It's like, I don't know, it's just
Mhm.
it's a very it's sometimes it's you just have to use your judgment to know
Mhm.
what's like too uncanny valley, what's like, what's just the right amount of detail to
Yeah,
contribute. And
yeah.
so for Mofex to use that, like, I don't
Exactly,
of
yeah.
course I don't have a picture of Rogue or queued up, but or no, wait, I do. 1 second. I let's see.
You were hating on it earlier. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, this is like, I probably shouldn't do this, but just just to illustrate a point. uh what my feeling looking at this, it's very close. But
Mhm.
like Jim Lee, like I think the head is too like narrow. It's like the like you would have a
Right, it
little
looks
bit
out
more of
of
a
proportion.
what's that?
It looks out of proportion to, like, her chest or whatever.
I think
Or is that right?
yeah, I mean, it's like the mouth feels a little too low, the nose maybe a bit too long, the cheekbone's not quite wide enough to
Mhm.
be like you could probably start to nudge these things. Jim Lee, the lips tend to be a little bit more like round, like
Mhm.
not like super full, but just like a little slightly more in the hand. And also it's like part of it might be the angle, but I mean, that's
Yeah.
just like the point is what I'm trying to illustrate is just like these are the sort of things that you can, just look at and go back and forth and be like, okay, a little bit more like the, just to get it
Yeah.
like, but I think this figure looks good. And if it's, I mean, it's not my personal preference, but if
Sure.
it makes you happy, like awesome.
There you go.
And yeah, I think, the posability of these figures is amazing.
Yeah, it's incredible.
Like it's, she'll go well. And I do love the teeth gritting face. I think the angry head looks really good.
Yeah, I like the gritting teeth face. I didn't really dig the smiling face.
This is probably it's just printed, like what the face. I assume this is like the printing and not the painted prototype, but like I feel like that's just a little too low. Like it missed the upper lip a little bit, and the eyes look a little strange. So that's the other thing with Mafex, is that the figures are small. Are small. They're smaller than a Marvel Legend, and the details on the face tend to be very soft because they want the like prints, the tampoed facial paint to do most of the work. But if it's off just even a little bit, I don't know, it just doesn't quite. Everything has like a very kind of slight effect, especially if you're used to like the sort of vivid detail of Marvel Legends.
So okay, I realize this is not what we're here to talk about tonight. But,
big tangent.
Just last question here around this, because I love talking shop with you, because I don't understand it at all. But is that one of the reasons why for Ghostbusters you wanted to be at 6.5 inches, so you had enough real estate on the faces to get the face painting right, or was there probably some other reason?
No, not necessarily. I think that we've played obviously working at 1/6 scale, like we understand the advantage of having bigger figures, and just how the paint can read, how the details read. So that's something that we really value. But it's more just about like finding that, like, what's just a satisfying like one size for a 1/12. And like for a more cartoony style, like real Ghostbusters, where it's more exaggerated and more expressive, like I think that is the way to go, as opposed to small delicate details. That's it's not a technical reason. It's just a aesthetic one, right?
Aesthetic, yeah. Awesome. Cool.
Cool. Right. Yeah. But yeah, so that's our whole sculpting tangent.
And I feel like we've had like 40 or so people watching. We have 20 something likes. Hit the like button, everybody. Let's show Ryan, Joel, and crew that we don't need them to get views. Okay.
Smash that like button.
Smash it.
But yeah, so the topic for tonight. Oh, I will do one final segue for the topic of tonight. From Spider-Man. So topic of tonight: animation renaissance.
Yeah.
Spelled correct. Renaissance.
Renaissance.
Yeah, and I think that X-Men 97 obviously helps puts Marvel, at an advantage in the animation renaissance. Also very excited for, obviously we saw Peter Parker and Mary Jane from the 90s Spider-Man cartoon, but there is another Spider-Man show in the works here. The Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, or Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, is being developed. And I think the show looks awesome. So this art was revealed, I believe, when they revealed the X-Men 97 art. And this is Peter Parker. Here's him with some of his classmates. Here's Norman Osborn. Looks awesome. Cool. Like it gives me that kind. It has kind of like, maybe a little Ditko, but definitely like Alex Toth kind of vibes. A little like Venture Brothers, Johnny Quest feeling to the aesthetic, which I think looks cool. And the main thing that really appeals to me in the description is they're talking about kind of going back to basics with Spider-Man. Because Jay, I don't know, where are you? Like, what's your Spider-Man fandom like?
didn't exist until Sam Raimi.
Okay.
I again, I had the Toy Biz Spider-Man action figure. That was it, really. And I didn't really fall in love with the 90s animated series. I stopped at, I kind of stuck with DC. So watched Batman. I loved X-Men 97, like adored X-Men, or sorry, the original
92,
X-Men. And then followed DC, like the Bruce Timm verse. Like I just followed that all the way through, basically, and didn't really go into any of the other Marvel animated series.
You and me are aligned like that. Like I never, like I would catch Spider-Man every now and then, but
yeah, like
it was mainly X-Men and Batman.
Yeah. So I don't have like an affinity for that, but I did really love the Sam Raimi films. And I've enjoyed the Tom Holland Spider films. So and I do love the concept of the character and everything. So it appeals to kids. It appeals to kids in a way that, it's weird, it never appealed to me that way, but I think it's mainly because there wasn't media at my target age. Like there wasn't, like I feel like we got the hooks dug into us with superheroes, with Superman and Batman and X-Men, and I feel like the Spider-Man wave came in a little bit later in our own development. I feel
it's funny how it's like, it's so precise. It's like there's such a huge difference between the age of 7 and 8, right? Like it's
right,
like
exactly.
It's just a year off. It's like all people
100%.
get on different tracks. So this comment that is that Jane Lane next to Peter. Yeah, I could see it. Maybe it's a little Daria meets Spider-Man. Yeah, I mean, the thing, my exposure, or my main love of Spider-Man stems mostly from the comics, the original Steve Ditko into the John Romita.
I went back and read those. They're so good.
So good, right? And that seems to be like in the description of the show, like kind of what they're pulling from.
Yeah.
And I feel like that is, I mean, I don't know what the show will end up being, but to me, that's like getting to the heart, to the DNA of Spider-Man, those early comics where, and I haven't seen it represented in media. Like the Sam Raimi movies come pretty close, but like just the incredibly down to earth quality of Peter Parker's existence, where it really is, he is just a guy, just a kid in high school who's like looking out for his aunt. He's worried about that. He's worried about how they're going to pay the rent. Like the episodic nature of his adventures of Spider-Man, it's like, it really like one thing leads to a next. It doesn't cheat in between issues. So like if he gets his costume stolen in one issue, the next issue he's going to be looking for a way to like have some sort of makeshift costume, and it's going to be like, well, I don't have the time to like sew another costume because like my aunt will like start to become suspicious of what I'm doing. Like, and there's literally like a moment where Peter Parker ends up buying a like Spider-Man Halloween costume from a costume shop, because Spider-Man is enough of like a known thing at that point that they have a costume, but it's like the worst selling costume. Like the store owners, it's always like insult to injury with Peter Parker. It's like, oh yeah, we can't get rid of that thing. So he buys his like Halloween costume, hoping that he can just wear it as his costume. But it's like so kind of cheap, and it doesn't, like the shirt doesn't tuck into the belt the way the proper one's supposed to. So it's like, and the way it's being drawn too, it's like the shirt is always like riding up so you can like see his stomach. It's just like, it's that sort of thing is what I feel like is the essence of Spider-Man.
No, I agree.
Kind of show I want to see that I think lends itself better to a TV show than movies, because movies always have to be, and also like I think that's maybe one of the other advantages that X-Men 97 has.
Yes.
Over
even if it was fast
paced.
Yeah.
Right. And yeah, they crammed a lot in. but it's like when you're adapting a comic book that has all of these sort of continuous stories. I think that's really hard. The movies always have to be kind of like the most important moment in these characters' lives. So it's all, and as it should be, like it's spectacle, right? Like you're always, the threat is at a 10. But for something like Spider-Man, it's like, well, maybe that actually isn't the best way to see Peter Parker, because we're supposed to really relate to him. Maybe it's better to see him in his day-to-day, not always like, saving the world, but sometimes he's just trying to, get paid for a picture he took from J. Jonah Jameson, like.
Well, that's where I think I agree. Like the movies always have to be like the most important thing, but I feel like Sam Raimi captured the homemadeness of Peter Parker, or just Peter Parker always succeeds here but fails here. Like he captured that the best in film.
Yeah.
But I completely agree. That's Spider-Man at its best. And even in the Tom Holland movies, like with Tony Stark, would be like, he needs to be like a friendly neighborhood superhero,
Yeah.
And so I it's in the title, and Bacon McShig says you're describing Spectacular Spider-Man. I know that one because I watched the pilot episode at Comic-Con, and I was like, that's a fun song. Spectacular Spider-Man. But anywho,
and that's the other thing too. Cool. I haven't watched Spectacular Ultimate. There's been more Spider-Man media. So possibly I think in those instances the aesthetic didn't really capture my interest. But again, it's like these characters go through so many permutations that everyone has a different idea of what the character should be. But yeah, so we'll see. This leads to a larger topic of what shows do we want to see kind of get the X-Men 97 treatment, which is to say, some sort of a revival that thoroughly understands what made the original so great and so special, but is able to take it in a new direction or enhance the animation. Do you have anything, Jay, that you wish they would go back to after all this time? And the other component, we were kids then, we're adults now. X-Men 97, even DuckTales and the Spider-Man revivals, it's really still for the next generation of kids. But if it happens to be able to be enjoyed by the people who grew up with it,
I would argue DuckTales can be
sure, yeah, I've heard that.
But no, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
And this is gonna be a cliche. It's gonna be too obvious, and they already kind of did this, but real Ghostbusters.
Yeah.
I've said it for a while, and I know there's been a lot of an animated series is coming to Netflix or something like that. But Ghostbusters lends itself so well to an episodic TV series, probably even more so than a movie, for that same reason that you're talking about, where it's just like a movie, it has to be some Sumerian god that's going to destroy the world. But the TV show allows it to be as small or as big as you need it to be.
Yeah.
And so, something that kind of had those looks, I would be, and bring back J. Michael Straczynski, the people that did it well, or somebody that could do it well. But real Ghostbusters would be a ton of fun. But I will say Thanos Copter dropping Pirates of Dark Water.
Yes.
So freaking good. I just don't know if there's enough people that are know what Pirates of Dark Water is. It didn't even succeed in its first run. It only had its first season. But because of that, it's not finished. The story's not finished. So that would work really well.
And
I love
the concept's strong, and I would like to see, because again, with the idea of sort of the modern acknowledgement that, we're grown up now, and it's, you can be a little bit more mature. I'd love to see a more kind of Frazetta, Frank Frazetta, William Stout rather, influence Pirates of Darkwater, because I think that's the other kind of component here is like, real Ghostbusters Pirates, they were well animated, but like to even more lavish animation, like what we saw with X-Men 97. Real Ghostbusters. There's episodes like the like Halloween 2.5, where it's like that's the Akira animation team, and it looks like Akira in the world of Ghostbusters, and it's beautiful. It's like TV movie animation.
Then you look at when Halloween was Forever, the first one, and it's an icon. It's Sam Hain's first appearance.
Yeah, right.
But they had the B team on that animation squad. There's a lot of crappy animation
for sure, that one. And some of the best written, or those season 1 and 2, or season 1 and 2 Ghostbuster episodes before the network meddling. Have kind of some of the rougher animation, and then the later seasons where the writing declined has like beautiful animation. So I mean, I'd love to just, like, Ghostbusters is such like a aesthetic built for animation. Love to see those ghosts and stuff interpreted today. Or Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes. That still feels, I'm old enough that feels like a recent that's the one with like the kind of anime influence.
I didn't watch it, so
I'm unfamiliar too, but I mean that could certainly be cool. Dark Super Friends. That's interesting. I mean, that's kind of like Justice League Unlimited, like that.
To me, like Justice League and Justice League Unlimited were phenomenal. That's
Gargoyles, 100%.
Because really, Gargoyles only had like season 1 was the only like good season, at least in my mind. It's like got wild after that.
It's like the original, the 90s Spider-Man cartoon. It kind of peters off, no pun intended. But I think the concept is really strong, and obviously, like, you remember the best animated episodes. The world of it is really cool. The really atmospheric New York at night, like all the sort of Gothic architecture, like, and the sort of Beauty and the Beast. So the storyline, like, there's a lot of potential there. So I definitely feel that.
Keith David's still kicking around, like getting him back in here, because I think the problem with any Disney afternoon property, because I see Darkwing Duck in here too. And I it's a little inside baseball, but I've said it before. I befriended Tad Stones, creator of Darkwing Duck, showrunner for Gummy Bears, and was a producer on DuckTales and a bunch of the stuff. The Aladdin animated series. Like, Disney as a corporation just doesn't. It's a miracle DuckTales happened, but they even canceled it after 3 seasons. They didn't let it go beyond that. Because they have that, Disney has that 3-season rule, or Disney TV has that season rule. You heard about that? Like, once a TV show goes after 3 seasons, I think everybody gets more pay, essentially. Their due raises, essentially.
Diabolical.
So usually Disney shows will cancel before going to the 4th season.
Jesus.
So anyway, there's demand there, and it's such a rich thing to tap into. But anyways, it's a miracle any of those, like even X-Men 97, like, it's kind of a miracle. You had the right person pick it up and execute, and it does so well that they're kind of forced to do more,
Yeah. No, it's true. It's like it does feel like it kind of just snuck in there. Let's see. We got
Darthurian is mad at our Avengers, how we put down Avengers Mightiest Heroes.
I don't know. I mean, I gotta visit the first time around before we go back to it.
Also, 12 years ago, that's still in the 2010s, man. That's too soon.
Yeah, we can't.
Isn't that weird that 12 years ago was 2012?
Yeah.
Time.
We're just getting older. Just like Exo Squad is another one.
A great concept too,
I haven't watched the original since I was a kid. I've heard it's amazing. I've heard it's you know, because some of the writers from X-Men the animated series worked on it. The Mark Edens, I believe, and the aesthetic. You know, a lot of the artists, you know, developed that show. So I've heard it's like the original is, and it has themes of you know conflict between peoples, and like it's just I've heard that the original show is definitely worth revisiting. And yeah, like I think, you know, with sort of beefed up animation, like could be very cool.
It's a good concept, like the whole the lore and the mythology and everything. It works well. Like it would
great toys, well. Good toys with that one.
Good ass toys.
We're both toy guys, you know.
Absolutely,
that's a factor. You know, you can't
Squad
rule that out.
It's one of my favorites. I got a collection. It's not displayed right now, but once I get the new setup for this room, Exo Squad will be displayed prominently. I love Exo Squad. Darthanian says it was actually the boo was around saying dissing Gargoyle season 2, 3 is fair game. It just kind of progressively kind of just tapered off. Because didn't season 2 end before they? I don't know. I just feel like they kind of just stopped funding it.
It gets you kind of, it doesn't get, I mean, when I revisited it, it doesn't get bad. It's just, you kind of check out. It's not really like keeping you in.
Yeah. I rewatched it too, as I was like, with the NECA gargoyles and
and then NECA gargoyles disappointed.
You know? Yeah, it was on Disney Plus. So I ended up buying a bunch of vintage gargoyles. There's the castle.
Oh yeah. All right. I remember you diving into that.
Yeah, I still have to do that video. I have a bunch of unopened mint on card gargoyles figures. Future video one day.
So is there, you know, any other properties that you personally feel like you'd like to see revisited?
Let's see. I'm just gonna look at my wall. Let's see what we got here. Oh, and humanoids. Humanoids would be fun.
Oh, I have no familiarity with that.
I guess it's a cool concept. I don't even think I watched. Oh, you know, it'd be fun. Nah, maybe it wouldn't work. Small Soldiers would be cool if that could be tapped into.
Yeah,
that was an originally animated show.
Certain things that never got an animated series, just because it like some of these movies that, like, if they had come out in the late 80s, early 90s, there would have been an animated series, but for whatever reason, it just never happened.
Ooh, Thundar the Barbarian's cool. Like a Space Ghost would be kind of fun, like an actual real Space Ghost.
But maybe that could
or
be
bring back Space Ghost Coast to Coast. That I watch that show all the time.
Yeah, just bring both back. We'll just have them. It'll be like when there were two Sonic the Hedgehog cartoons.
Yes,
like the dark one and the silly one, right?
Yes. Yeah. God, well, that was like my Conan O'Brien or whatever. You know, people talk about Conan O'Brien was like their show that they stayed up late. I remember staying up late to watch Space Ghost Coast to Coast. Such a good show.
I don't like, this is kind of in the real Ghostbusters vein, but I'd like to see a new Men in Black cartoon. Maybe not necessarily a revival of the original series, but just like that concept done with, you know, sort of more mature, which isn't to say like serious, but just like more of the vibe of the movie, the live action movie, with the animation from like the intro to the original cartoon, but throughout. Like, I just feel like that world, we haven't said all that there is to say with the world of Men in Black. I think that could be
100%.
Cool.
Yeah, and that was a good show. That was a fun.
Yeah, it was.
I think it was the same animation company that did the Extreme Ghostbusters.
Yeah,
and they also did Jumanji. I think the Jumanji show was fun too.
Yeah, and I think they did a Godzilla show. I think was
that team,
and Big Guy and Rusty the Boy Robot.
I didn't watch that one.
That was like tail end of animation of our I think our involvement with animation. I just kind of remember, Real Ghostbusters was like, this is like, I'm kind of it's not really for my generation at this point. You know, it's my memory of those things.
All Real Monsters.
Oh yeah, could be.
That's
cool.
a fun one. God, that'd be a good. Okay, not to tell you what to do with your life, but that'd be a good Mondo toy line. Have we talked about that before? I feel like it's been talked about before.
We've announced a.
That's right. You announced it.
Yeah,
that's
we've
thing,
got.
Right?
I don't know. I can't remember what's been divulged.
Just like a thing y'all were doing it or something like that.
Yeah. So Mondo All Real Monsters in some capacity to be revealed or is happening, and it's super. All I'll say is that if you're a fan of that show, you're going to be very happy with what's coming.
Even if you're not a fan, they're just cool designs.
Yeah.
That work. Like they're just cool freaking looking characters that would look cool on a show. And
the sculptor who worked on the product for us is really good. Did a really great job, and he's been crushing it on some other toy lines too. So a bit to look forward to there. I think my last thing that I think I want to see get the X-Men 97 treatment is Batman. Now I'll explain, like, not Batman the Animated Series. Okay. That's perfection.
Are you going Burton versus Batman?
Just like,
or just
Batman, like comic book Batman, right? Like, just that sort of 90s era. Like, I think part of the other great thing about X-Men 97 is that they're able to mine like the best of the X-Men comic book stories from that era. And just like the original series, like kind of remix them and tweak them a little bit, update it, clean up some of the messy, plot threads and just make the best versions of those storylines. I think that's one of the strengths of the show. And I think that Batman in the comics has plenty of that material that the original, like Batman the Animated Series also did. They took like famous comic storylines and villains and they kind of put a spin on it. Like, I think you could do that with. All right, this is another component to this. I was watching Blade Runner, the original Blade Runner, a few nights ago. Okay, I was like, this is
director's cut or which cut?
Director's cut, of course. Director's cut. I thought this is. I want to see Gotham City in this light. Wasn't
Batman Beyond kind of Blade Runner Batman?
Yeah. No, I don't mean like future necessarily. I just mean in terms of like, and again, it's like that like that Tim Burton-esque 90s Batman, like gothic, noir, gritty, urban, whimsical. Like, I want to see just mix all that together because the Batman the Animated Series is like so elegant. And it's a kind of like 1940s like classic movie.
Fleischer, like a Fleischer Batman. Yeah.
It's classy. It's a classy thing, but I feel like you could do a more rain-soaked neon Tim Burton, Ridley Scott, moody, shadowy, take on the Dark Knight.
I love that. I thought you were going with like, because like Batman 89, like a way where you can let Burton fulfill his full Batman vision, because then you could have Keaton voiceover Batman, you could have Michelle Pfeiffer voiceover. Like, it'd be easier to voice over the characters, so that way you could, bring these characters back.
Yeah, no, I think that could certainly be cool too. Yeah. And I know that DC has been doing those, straight to video movies and stuff that may probably scratch some of this itch, but like a focused effort on, the way that we saw with X-Men 97, I think could be cool. And that's not to discount the Caped Crusader show that's coming out that we covered a few weeks ago.
Yeah,
that
last week.
I think looks awesome. Like
2 weeks ago? When was that?
Or last week, maybe?
It was last week, wasn't it? I was on last week, wasn't I? I was here a week ago, right?
What is time? What is, 2012 was 12 years ago, right? Yeah. So, but I think there's with a character like Batman, you can always do, you don't need just one interpretation of Batman at one time.
Absolutely.
Like there's a lot.
It's going to be tough with Kevin Conroy having passed, whoever tries to fill in those shoes. But
all the more reason to kind of like take it in a new direction. So I think we've hit on this topic enough, I believe. And
you're welcome, Hollywood. Just write it all down.
We're in exciting times. It's an exciting time. The Jurassic Park animated series we never got in the 90s but could have.
Did you ever watch the Camp Cretaceous?
I think I maybe tried to watch the first episode. I know that's popular.
Maybe because I have kids that are of that age, so we watched it as like a family. But it was actually a fun show, and went for a few seasons. It held me for at least a couple of seasons. I think by season 3 or 4, it kind of went nuts. But the first couple of seasons of that show were actually pretty good.
Yeah. Well, that's
the whole premise. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say that's good. I mean, to me, it feels like very much like a modern show.
Yes.
Whereas, like it is like what what that animated series would have looked like in 1993, 4 when Jurassic Park came out. I can't remember, but something like that from the alternate reality where that that aired on Kids WB or whatever.
Yeah, it's like Jurassic Park's greatest flaw is that it was just a self-contained story.
Yeah.
And you could never recapture its great. I mean, no one has. It's the only one that at least felt like, this was fun. It wasn't great, but it was fun, was the Jurassic World. But it basically just regurgitated the Jurassic Park plot.
Well, the animated series would be like, a group of people. They get trapped on like a gigantic island, and the whole premise of the show is just them trying to get off the island, right? So it's like, we need to get to like, there's like a satellite tower where we can we might actually, in every episode you're like, this is the one, they're gonna get off the island, and then something happens, and of course you'd have it be that like the T-Rex is like kind of a good guy and helps him out of jams. Like it's always like, oh no, what are we gonna do against this new dinosaur? And then T-Rex shows up. It's like, I'm talking about formulaic toy commercial. Crazy neon, like people wearing tiger stripe camo with like a big net launcher gun, that's where my head's at with this thing.
I love that. That's great. It's like Gilligan's Island meets Lost.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. So you're welcome, Hollywood.
I remember the Lost days where everyone there's dinosaurs on the island or whatever. Did you watch Lost?
Oh yeah, I watched Lost.
Okay, yeah.
But I have one. Here's my beef with Lost. Here's my one.
Let's hear it.
Beef. Last episode, it should have cut to found, like the Lost logo, but it just says found.
That would have been.
That's what I was waiting for.
They got off the island, or at least some of them got off the island.
Yeah,
in season
they already kind of they were
4. Yeah. They kind of screwed the pooch on that ability. I don't disagree with you.
Yeah.
Spoiler alert, folks. It's coming back to Netflix, I think, soon.
Yeah, I haven't visited this is strange. I didn't watch the first 2 or 3 seasons of Lost, which is when everybody got hooked, obviously. I came to it late, but it was the episode I watched was so tense and so good. I was just like, all right. I don't need to know everyone's name. I get what's going on.
You just started in the middle?
Yeah. And like a bunch of people had already
Amazing.
died and stuff. Like,
Yeah.
like, I don't
Wow.
know who Shannon is. Like, who is that? Not
They
my
died way
loss.
before I jumped in.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
No, I watched season 1 on DVD because we didn't start it when it started in season 1. So like, let's just wait till reruns, but they kind of screwed up the reruns over the summer. So I bought the DVD set and we watched the whole season in like a day and then started season 2 live.
Yeah. It was good times.
Good times.
Peak TV. I feel like we're
was
back there
good.
with X-Men 97. Yeah, Cadillacs and dinosaurs. That's kind of what I'm talking about, but like with a Jeep and maybe like a kid who's there too, and like yeah. All right, Jay. Anything else you want to plug? Geek Dad Life is every Sundays.
Yeah, every Sunday, and then other shows may drop. Like today, we got Extendar. We did a live stream.
Yeah, saw that. Congratulations.
Yeah, it's sold out, but it hung around at least for a few hours. And
they didn't need to
yeah.
extend the period. Yeah, there you go.
So I have my vintage one. So finally I have one to replace my vintage Extendar, which is good.
Replace. Oh man, it's like Toy Story 2. poor old Extendar.
And I'm a huge Toy Story fan. So I got my Pixar collection, Buzz and Woody right there.
Oh, sick, yeah.
But yeah, no, but the podcast is kind of the shiny new toy in the GDL production slate of things. This week we're covering the Filmation series. So we're taking a little break from the years. So tomorrow night, Dan and I are going to be recording an episode about the Filmation cartoon. And that should post on Tuesday. And then after that, we get back into the year game. We're going to dive into the toy line 1984. And we're joined by Pixel Dan.
Nice.
Going to be a barn burner. It's going to be a great time.
Yeah, you guys are really celebrating Masters of the Universe. Do you have a kind of, you maybe alluded to some of it, a short list of figure lines you want to?
Oh, it's like a whole bunch of toy lines.
Cool.
There's a toy line that I think will follow up that I think will be a good palate cleanser after this series is done. It'll be a shorter one. But I think it'll be a cool follow-up series. Maybe a little more cult classic, not necessarily a gigantic toy line. Like
give the little guys, the lesser herd line some love.
And it's not like unknown. I feel like it's a loved line, but maybe didn't necessarily go as big and long as maybe some of the other toy lines out there. That's my hint. But that won't nice. That won't happen till I think Masters will take us through July. And then we'll start and then we'll have another toy line.
Nice. I can't wait. Well, and speaking of toy lines that just don't get enough love or attention, cheap plug for the Ninja Turtles soft vinyl figures that I got to sculpt for Mondo. If you go to mondoshop.com right now, they are on sale. And yeah, it was.
And there you are, right there.
Yeah, here I am. It was an honor to get to sculpt these. These are my first. So Ninja Turtles is where action figures started for me. Like that was my first ever action figure.
Wow.
So, yeah, and it's so I mean, I just like could not be more lucky to get to work on this stuff. Donatello is my favorite. It was my favorite turtle, and he's out there, and yeah, like I was kind of, I really like the Mirage comics. I want them to kind of feel like that. But then also like that, like the old like Playmates package art, like the turtle van, like the way they are drawn on like the turtle van box and like the different their packaging and stuff. Like I want to, Hector and I want to like kind of evoke obviously that like kind of old school like Playmates feel, but that artwork in particular, I just feel like the The turtles look really like iconic there.
We haven't seen the box art for these yet, have we?
No.
When do we get to see that?
I don't know.
Okay.
But you know, I think it's gonna be really
great.
Cool. Yeah,
they look great. I think
thanks,
I officially said, like, I don't know if I'm gonna get the turtles.
Yeah, you
I
guys,
feel like
you're saving up. Yeah.
Well, yeah, Ghostbusters is coming, so I gotta make sure I have all my pennies ready for that. But also, it's just like I feel like I'm gonna, you know, wait for the weird guys. I'm excited for the weird ones.
No, this is gonna be a fun line, and yeah, we've got some amazing, crazy things in the works.
Because that Mondo Gecko looks so good.
Oh
That you all
man,
showed at Decon.
and
These look great. These
thank you.
look amazing. Like, again, so I'm not shorting these at all.
Jay.
I think they're great. You should go buy them. I'm just saying, this is like this is the Leonardo of the different design types. Now you can get into some really crazy stuff with some of these other characters.
And wait until you guys see the painted Mondo Gecko, because it is incredible. Mark Bristow, our painter, did a phenomenal job. His skateboard, you guys are just gonna lose your minds when you see it. But yeah, so that's what we got going on right now at mondoshop.com. So that's the
and I love the articulation. I love you got 7 points. You know,
yeah, it's kind of that like it's kind of the classic Ninja Turtles feel. Like, you know, the Sofubi soft vinyl lends itself very well to the kind of retro toys that you remember growing up. And so yeah, it's fun. it's a you know, we're super lucky to get to play around with all this stuff. But yeah, so that's our show. We did it. We got through it. You know,
I think we did okay.
Yeah, you know, Brian, please come back. Please, for the love of God, come back next week. Yeah, no. So we'll be back to normal next Wednesday. And but thank you all for showing up and hanging out with us. And thank you, Jay, for bailing me out here and coming and talking cool stuff with me. So
no, I'm happy to. And I know we tried to do this a couple weeks ago and it just didn't work out.
Yeah.
So I'm glad we got to pull it off. And yeah, my thing with any of these situations is it doesn't turn into like Garth when Wayne got fired from Wayne's World, and it's just like sitting. We didn't do that, so we did it.
I think we held to like Uncle Buck. Like in the end, like, you know, you guys came around to us, and you know, we got through it. You know, we all changed a little bit.
And we learned a little bit ourselves too, about ourselves. Yeah.
All right. Well, hopefully you come back next week, and we'll see you guys then. Have a good night.
Bye, everybody.
And bye.